My name is Emily Parker, and this is the beginning of the story I never thought I would tell. I live in a small white house in Denver, in the United States of America. It is not a big house, but it has a tiny yard, 2 bedrooms, and a narrow kitchen where I once believed many happy years would pass. When my husband and I first bought it, we signed the papers with shaking hands and counted every dollar we had saved. We had scraped together a down payment of about $20,000, and it felt like proof that we were building a real future together. I remember standing in the empty living room, holding his hand and saying, "This is our place now, our safe place." My husband's name is Michael. We met in college and married when we were both 27. I work as an office manager for a small company in Denver, and he works in sales for a bigger firm across town. My younger sister, Anna, moved to our city from another part of America about a year ago. When she arrived, I was so happy. I thought we would have Sunday dinners together, maybe trips across America, maybe even a vacation in Europe one day if we ever saved enough dollars. I trusted both of them so much that I never even thought about checking what they were doing when I wasn't there. The day everything started to fall apart seemed like any other normal workday. I woke up to the alarm ringing at 6:30 in the morning. The sun was just starting to rise over the roofs of the houses on our street. I rushed through my usual routine, trying not to be late. I made quick coffee, toasted some bread, and checked my email on my laptop while standing at the counter. My mind was full of small things, bills, deadlines, a broken lamp in the living room that I still needed to replace. I grabbed my bag, my keys, and what I thought was my phone, and headed for the door. Michael was standing near the front door, tying his shoes. He gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and said, "Don't stay too late, Em. You've been working too hard." His voice sounded warm and caring, and I believed him. I smiled and said, "I'll try to leave on time. We still need to go over the budget this week. The mortgage and the credit card bill are getting high." He nodded, but he did not meet my eyes. I noticed it for a second, but I pushed the thought away. I told myself it was just stress. Then I left the house and drove to work, thinking my life was steady, simple, and safe. The morning at the office passed in a blur of emails, phone calls, and small tasks. Around lunchtime, I reached for my phone to check a message, and my hand met an empty pocket in my bag. I paused, frowned, and searched again, this time more carefully. I checked my desk drawers, my coat, even the break room counter. Nothing. I tried to remember the last time I had clearly seen my phone. A picture flashed in my mind. It was sitting on the small table by the front door at home, right next to the bowl where we kept spare keys and loose coins. I had walked past it in my rush, telling myself I would grab it, and then I simply hadn't. At first, I told myself it was no big deal. I could live one day without my phone. People could email me if they needed me. Still, I felt strangely uneasy, like a small piece of my life was missing. I stayed later than usual, trying to finish a report for my boss, so I wouldn't have to think about anything else. When I finally looked up, the office was quiet and almost empty. The clock on my computer screen said 6:35 p.m. I sighed, shut down my laptop, and picked up my bag. I decided I would drive straight home, rest, and pick up my phone there. But halfway home, at a red light, a different thought came to me. What if I had actually left the phone at my desk and just missed it when I searched? I hated the idea of starting the next morning with the same confusion. So, instead of taking the usual turn toward our house, I went around the block and turned back toward the office. The sky was getting darker, and the streetlights were coming on. By the time I pulled into the parking lot at work again, it was right around 7 p.m. The parking lot was almost empty, lit by tall lamps humming softly above the rows of spaces. I drove slowly, heading toward my usual spot near the side entrance. That was when I saw it. Our blue sedan. Michael's car. It was parked a few spaces away from the door, engine off, but I could see shapes inside. My first thought was simple confusion. Why was Michael here? His office was on the other side of the city. Maybe his car had broken down. Maybe he had come to surprise me and take me out to dinner. For a moment, that idea made me smile. Then I looked a little closer. There were 2 people in the car. I knew the shape of the driver's shoulders, the way he tilted his head when he talked. That was Michael. The person in the passenger seat had long hair that I knew very well.
Anna.
My sister. My smile faded as my heart started to pound harder in my chest. I turned off my engine and sat there, staring across the lot, watching them in the quiet glow of the parking lights, and a cold, heavy fear began to spread through me. For a moment, I just sat there in my car, frozen, staring across the parking lot. Under the pale lamps, I could see our blue sedan clearly. Michael was in the driver's seat. Anna was beside him, turned slightly toward him, her face lit up in a smile I knew well. I watched her reach out and touch his arm, a soft, easy touch that didn't look like family. A cold feeling slid through my chest, and it was like my heart and my brain stopped at the same time. I told myself it had to be nothing. Maybe she needed a ride. Maybe they were planning something nice for me. But even as I tried to calm myself, my body knew better. My hands were shaking as I unbuckled my seatbelt and stepped out of my car. The parking lot was almost empty, quiet except for the distant sound of traffic. My heels sounded too loud as I walked toward them, every step pushing me closer to a truth I didn't want. Michael turned his head first. Our eyes met through the glass, and I saw the exact split second when he understood that I had seen them. His face changed, the easy expression disappearing in an instant. Anna followed his gaze, and her smile vanished too. I stopped beside the driver's door and knocked on the window. He flinched, then opened it halfway. "Emily," he said, forcing a little laugh. "What are you doing here?" "I work here," I answered. My voice surprised me. It was flat and calm. "What are you doing here? And why are you with my sister?" Anna leaned toward my side of the car, her hands twisted together. Please, it's not. Don't say it's not what I think." I cut in. "I can see exactly what it looks like." For a long second, no one spoke. Then Michael got out of the car and closed the door behind him, leaving Anna inside. He stepped closer to me, lowering his voice like we were just having a small, private disagreement. "You're overreacting," he said. "We were just talking. She's been having a hard time, and you've been so busy with work and the house and the bills." I was trying to help. "In a dark parking lot at 7 in the evening?" I asked. "In my car? Without telling me?" He rubbed his forehead, the way he always did when he was caught off guard. "We've grabbed coffee a few times, that's all. I didn't mention it because I knew you'd take it the wrong way. I didn't want to stress you out more." Anna opened her door and stepped out too, keeping a little distance. "Emily, I'm sorry," she said quietly. "We didn't mean for it to get complicated. We were just talking at first. You were tired and Michael was there and..." Her voice faded in my ears. All I could see was the two of them side by side, and all I could hear was that one word. We. We grabbed coffee. We were talking. We met. Somewhere along the way, I had become the extra person in my own marriage. "I'm going inside to get my phone," I said. "Both of you can go home. We'll talk later." Michael started reaching for me. I stepped back. "No, just go." I turned away before any of them could say another word. My legs felt like they were made of stone, but they kept moving, carrying me toward the side door of the building. I swiped my badge, walked into the quiet hallway, and finally let my shoulders sag. The office felt strange and echoing, like I was walking through a place I no longer quite belonged to. At my desk, my phone lay exactly where I had left it that morning, face down beside my keyboard. I picked it up, and the screen lit up with a burst of light and a flood of notifications. Missed calls, emails, a row of messages from our bank and our credit card company. Under normal circumstances, I would have ignored the bank emails until the next day. But my stomach was already tight with fear, and the word, alert, on the screen pulled at me. I opened the first email. "We have noticed unusual activity on your card. Please review the following charges." There was a list of transactions I did not recognize. A fancy restaurant downtown I had never visited. Another one in the same area. A hotel charge. A small boutique. One dinner for $180. Another for $230. A weekend total of more than $400. All in dollars, all on our joint card. I stared at the dates. They lined up too neatly. A Friday night when Michael told me he had a late client meeting. A Saturday when Anna texted that she was staying in and didn't feel well. A Tuesday when I had stayed at the office to finish a report, telling both of them I couldn't make dinner. I scrolled further down and saw a note at the bottom of one restaurant bill. "Thank you for visiting us again, Mr. Parker. We hope you and your guests enjoyed your evening." It felt like someone had dropped a stone straight through my chest. I could see it so clearly in my mind now. The soft light of a restaurant, the sound of quiet music, Michael reaching for his wallet, Anna laughing at something he said, their plates between them, glasses of wine, dessert shared with the same spoon. Paid for with money we were supposed to be using to hold our life together, to keep our little house in America. Standing there in the almost empty office, my phone heavy in my hand, I understood that this was bigger than a moment in a parking lot. It was months of lies hidden behind late meetings, and I'm too tired tonight. It was our credit, our mortgage, our future being spent behind my back. My heart hurt more than I thought it could, but underneath the pain something hard and clear started to form. I had forgotten my phone that morning, but now that it was back in my hand, it was like someone had handed me proof instead of plastic and glass. Proof of where my husband had really been. Proof of who he had chosen to share our money, our time, and our nights with. And as I stood there, shaking, I knew that when I walked out of that office again, I would not be the same woman who had walked in. When I finally left the office that night, the sky was almost black. The parking lot was empty now. Michael's car was gone. Anna's face, Michael's nervous smile, and the list of charges on our credit card kept replaying in my mind. I held my phone like it was something dangerous. It was proof, and it was heavy. The drive home felt longer than usual, even though it was the same road through the same quiet streets in Denver. My hands were tight on the steering wheel. I kept trying to breathe slowly, but my chest hurt. I wasn't just hurt as a wife. I was scared as a person who knew exactly how many dollars were in our accounts, who knew how close we already were to the edge. When I pulled into our driveway, the little white house looked different to me. It used to feel warm and safe, like a small promise in a busy world. Now it looked like a place built on a story that was no longer true. The porch light was on. I could see shadows moving inside. I walked up to the front door and opened it without knocking. Michael and Anna were in the living room. They both stood up quickly, like kids who had been caught doing something wrong. The TV was on but silent. A half-finished glass of wine sat on the coffee table. "Emily," Michael said, stepping toward me. "We need to talk." "We really do," I answered. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it for a second, just to steady myself. "Let's start with this." I held up my phone. "How many dinners did you pay for with our credit card, Michael?" He froze. Listen. "How many?" I repeated, my voice rising. Was it all of those bills I saw? The restaurant downtown, the hotel, the boutique. Anna looked at the floor. "Emily, please," she whispered. "Don't yell." "The neighbors." "I don't care about the neighbors," I said. "I care about the fact that my husband has been using our money to take my own sister out for fancy dinners." Michael rubbed his face and finally said, "It just happened. We were both lonely. You were always working, and I felt like I couldn't talk to you about anything. Anna was there, and—" "Stop," I said sharply. "Don't you dare blame this on my job or our bills. We were both stressed. We were both tired. I didn't cheat. I didn't take our card and throw away thousands of dollars on someone else." He fell silent. Anna's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean for it to get this far," she said. "At first it was just coffee. Then dinner. Then what?" I asked. "Then you decided my marriage and our savings were worth less than your feelings?" No one answered. The room felt heavy and strange. I walked over to the small desk where we kept our papers. I pulled out the folder with our mortgage information, our credit card statements, our bank account details. The numbers stared up at me, sharp and unforgiving. We were already behind on one mortgage payment. The extra card charges pushed us even closer to trouble. I sat down with my laptop, my hands still shaking. "What are you doing?" Michael asked. "I'm closing the credit card," I said. "Right now. And I'm blocking my ATM card." You will not spend one more dollar of my money. You can't just. Yes, I said quietly, without looking at him. I can. And I am. I logged into our online banking. It felt strange, almost unreal, to click the buttons that would shut down accounts we had opened together. I called the number on the back of the card and told the person on the line that there had been misuse, that I wanted the card closed immediately. My voice didn't shake. It was calm, almost cold. When I hung up, I turned to the mortgage papers. I thought of the $20,000 we had saved for the down payment. I thought of all the nights I stayed late at work, of every small thing we had given up to make the payments. And then I thought of the restaurant bills, the hotel charges, the bottles of wine I hadn't shared, the meals I hadn't eaten. I'm calling the bank in the morning, I said. I can't keep this house. Michael stared at me, shocked. You're overreacting. We'll fix it. I'll stop seeing her. We'll make a new plan, pay it back. No, I said. There is no we here anymore. You didn't think of we when you slid that card across the table again and again. You didn't think of we when you checked into a hotel. You thought of yourself. And now I have to think of myself. Anna tried to move closer, but I stepped away. Please, Emily, she said. Don't throw your whole life away because of this. I let out a short, bitter laugh. I'm not throwing my life away. I'm taking it back. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in our bed, listening to the quiet house and remembering how much I had loved it. In the morning, I woke up early, called the bank, and told them I wanted to give the house back. We talked about missed payments, about handing over the keys, about what it would mean for my credit. It hurt, but there was also a strange feeling of release, like I was finally stepping out of a trap I hadn't noticed until it snapped shut. By the afternoon, I had packed my clothes, my important papers, a few photos, and the bare minimum I needed. I left my wedding album on the shelf. I left the fancy dishes we'd bought on sale. I left the idea of the life I thought I had. As I walked out the front door with my suitcase, Michael stood in the hallway, his face pale. Where will you go? He asked. I don't know yet, I said. But wherever it is, I'll pay for it with my own money, and I won't be sharing my life with a man who used my dollars to buy someone else dinner. I stepped out onto the porch, closed the door behind me, and walked away from the little white house that no longer felt like home. The next morning, I woke up in my new studio apartment, confused for a moment by the thin light coming through the blinds and the strange ceiling above me. Then everything rushed back at once. Michael, Anna, the parking lot, the credit card, the call to the bank, the way the front door of our little white house had sounded when I closed it behind me. For a few seconds, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like my whole life had been taken apart and left in pieces on the floor. The studio was small, just one room in an old building in Denver with creaky floors and thin walls. There was a tiny kitchenette, a narrow bathroom, and a mattress on a metal frame that I had bought the night before with part of the little money I had left. I had about $2,000 in my personal account, and I could feel each dollar like something fragile I needed to protect. Still, as I made instant coffee and leaned against the counter, I told myself one thing: this place was mine. It was not perfect, but no one had lied to me to pay for it. I spent the first hour of the morning sitting at the small table by the window, making a list on a yellow notepad. I wrote down everything I needed to do: call a lawyer, check my email, talk to human resources at work, find out exactly what the bank would do with the house, change my address on my accounts, create a new budget. I broke each task into smaller steps because if I thought of everything at once, it felt like I might fall apart. I was still hurt and angry, but underneath that, something new was growing, a kind of quiet determination I did not know I had. Around 9 o'clock, as I was in the middle of planning how to stretch my money over the next 3 months, there was a knock on the door. It was a soft, polite knock, 3 quick taps. My heart jumped. For a moment, I was sure it was Michael or Anna. I imagined Michael standing there with flowers, or Anna with a suitcase and tears, both of them ready to fill the hallway with apologies and explanations I was not ready to hear. Part of me wanted to ignore the sound and pretend I wasn't home, but I was tired of being afraid, so I went to the door and opened it. A woman I had never seen before stood in the hallway. She was in her early 40s, with short brown hair and calm eyes. She wore a navy blazer over a simple white top and jeans. In one hand, she held a folder, in the other a paper coffee cup. Her smile was gentle, not too bright, like she already knew I was not in the mood for cheerfulness.
"Hi," she said.
"Are you Emily Parker?" "Yes," I answered slowly. "That's me." "My name is Laura Bennett," she said. "I work in the finance office at your company. I'm sorry to show up like this, but I was hoping we could talk for a minute. Is that okay?" I hesitated, then stepped back.
"Sure."
"Come in." She walked into the apartment and looked around, not in a judging way, more like she was taking in my situation carefully. She sat at the small table when I gestured to it, and I sat across from her, my hands wrapped around my mug even though the coffee was already going cold. "I know this is a lot," Laura began, "but yesterday I saw some flags on your employee file. Late mortgage payments, rising credit card balances, and then a sudden closure of your accounts. We also got an automated notice from the bank that one of our employees might be at risk of defaulting on a home loan. That's you." I swallowed.
"Yes."
"That's me." She opened the folder and slid it a little closer, like she wanted me to see that she wasn't making anything up. "We have a support program," she said. "Most people ignore the emails about it, but it's there. We help employees who are going through financial crises, divorce, fraud, sudden debt, that sort of thing. I thought, given what I saw, maybe you could use some help." For a moment, I couldn't speak. I had prepared myself for more loss, more blame, more problems. I had not prepared myself for kindness. "My husband used our credit card," I said finally, my voice low. "He spent thousands of dollars on my sister." I closed the cards and gave up the house. I don't even know what my credit looks like now. Probably terrible. Laura nodded, like she had heard stories like this before.
"I'm really sorry," she said.
"But this doesn't have to be the end of everything. It will be hard, but you can rebuild. We can help you talk to the bank. Sometimes they will remove certain fees if there's clear misuse. We can set you up with a financial counselor and a lawyer who knows property and debt law. And there's a small emergency fund, up to $3,000 for cases like yours." $3,000? I repeated, feeling both hopeful and guilty. "That's a lot." "It's not a gift for the rest of your life," she said with a small smile. "But it might keep you from drowning right now. Think of it as a bridge, not a rescue boat." I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. For the first time in days, I felt something inside me unclench. Someone was not asking me for anything. They were offering me a way forward. I thought of the little house I had lost, the dollars Michael had poured into dinners and hotel rooms with my sister, the nights I had spent working late to keep us afloat. I thought of my dream of one day traveling to Europe with money I had saved myself, maybe walking down a street in London with no secret debts hanging over my head. That dream felt far away now, but not completely gone. "Okay," I said softly. "What do I need to do?" Laura opened her folder and pulled out a few forms. "First," she said, "you tell me everything. We'll write it down. Then we'll make a plan. Not just for today, but for the next 6 months, the next year. This isn't just about what you've lost, Emily. It's about what you're going to build." As she spoke, I realized something. The story I was telling was no longer just about betrayal and loss. It was also about the moment a woman in a small Denver studio apartment, with only a few $100s left after rent, decided to fight for her own future. I had walked away from a house that wasn't safe. Now, with a stranger's help and my own stubborn will, I was going to learn how to build a life that was.